Hey everybody, it's Chris, and today I'm going to be going over the Purple Dragon Knight, which has just been released in Unearthed Arcana. So there's been an Unearthed Arcana released. It's on D&D Beyond. You can get it for free, and it shows the original design phase for some subclasses that are going to be in the upcoming Forgotten Realms book later this year. And some of them are brand new, and some of them are redesigns of old subclasses. And today I'm looking at the Purple Dragon Knight, which is a redesign of an old subclass. Now, if you didn't know, the Purple Dragon Knight was already in 5th edition. You could be forgiven because it is a forgotten subclass, because it wasn't very good. It was in the Sword Coast Adventures Guide. So now we have a new version, and I am so pleased because I was having a conversation one day before the Unearthed Arcana was released with somebody online about lance builds. So we have the lance in D&D, and it had some design changes in the new rules. And one of the things I've noted about the new design for the lance and feats that might affect the lance is it qualifies for dueling. It qualifies for Great Weapon Master. It is the only one-handed weapon that can qualify for Great Weapon Master. It qualifies for Polearm Master, and boy, would it be great if you could make a character that was mounted with a shield and a lance that could benefit from all three of those things. I guess they're all three of them are feats. But how do you do that? Because, if you want a character that has a survivable mount, number one, you probably want the mounted combatant feat. Well, now we have 4 feats that we want. Furthermore, you probably need some kind of subclass feature to give you a decent mount. Otherwise, your mount is just going to die, and then you're going to be on the ground with a lance and a shield, and you're kind of screwed because you got to use your action to unequip that shield now, so that you can use the lance two-handed, because you can no longer use the lance one-handed if you fall off your mount. I mean, you could potentially just equip or unequip the mount or the lance and then equip a longsword or something like that. But if you've taken Polearm Master and Great Weapon Master, kind of sucks to not be able to use those feats. However, here we seem to have our solution, because the one way we can get all the feats we need is with the fighter. The fighter is the one that can do it. We have dueling, we can get it at level 1. Then we can get Great Weapon Master at level 4 and use a great sword or something like that. Then at level 6 we could pick up Polearm Master, and then we're going to switch and start using halberds and glaives. And then at level 8 we can pick up mounted combatant, and by that time the Purple Dragon Knight should be a great mounted character. So I want to go over the design here. Overall, I love it, and I think we should keep in mind that with Unearthed Arcana, we should expect changes before final publication. However, even if there are changes to this, just the basic concept alone means it should work well for this concept. And I do also want to mention there's one thing I really hope they change, because there's one thing I don't like. And, I would like it in a vacuum, but based on what we already have in the new rules, I really dislike it. So I do hope they change that. But we're going to begin with the Purple Dragon Knight. So if you are not familiar with the Forgotten Realms, the Purple Dragon Knight is the knights, the main cavalry from the Kingdom of Cormyr. And I do notice they have changed the lore here. So they say, although the Purple Dragons were originally founded in Cormyr, new recruits are enlisted from any realms where chivalry is in abundance, including the Silver Marches, Demera, and Chisentia. Basically, they're saying, go ahead and make a Purple Dragon Knight from wherever. Which is, I get it, because it's D&D, and you don't want to make it so the subclass is only available to characters from one location. So they have changed the lore a little bit there. But basically the Purple Dragon Knight is, your fairy tale knight. Okay? That's Cormyr is your fairy tale kingdom. So let's go over the features. So you're going to select your subclass at level 3. And we're going to start level 3 with 1 ribbon feature and 1 solid feature. So the ribbon feature is Knightly Envoy. You learn 1 language of your choice, which you choose from the language tables in the player's handbook. Additionally, you can cast Comprehend Languages, but only as a ritual. Intelligence is your spellcasting ability for it. Fine. Ribbon. And then level 3, Purple Dragon Companion. You are bounded with an amethyst dragon hatching that serves as your purple dragon companion and uses the purple dragon companion stat block. The purple dragon is friendly to you and your allies and obeys your commands. And this is also, from a lore standpoint, brand new. Purple Dragon Knights were just called Purple Dragon Knights. It was their symbol, but there was never an actual purple dragon that they had as a pet. This is a brand new concept. They say the dragon in combat, and this is important and great, and I hope they keep it. In combat, the dragon acts during your turn. That alone is massive because so often pets act after you. And then if you want to actually use the pet as a mount, you have to control it. And then if you control it, it limits the various actions it can take. Otherwise, you can't have, your dragon do a breath weapon or an attack. So because it acts during your turn, we do not need to control it as a mount. It can move around, and we can take our actions, and we can combine the two. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes is the dodge action unless you take a bonus action to command it to take an action in its stat block or some other action. This is pretty standard pet mechanics right there. In fact, these mechanics are pretty similar to what we see with the Beastmaster. If you have the incapacitated condition, the dragon acts on its own and isn't limited to the dodge action. Then it says resurrecting the dragon. So this is one thing I was curious about because, of course, a Beastmaster can just use the magic action and a spell to bring back their beast if it dies. Of course, Purple Dragon Knights aren't going to have spells unless they've gotten them through feats or multiclassing, but on their own, they're not going to have any spells. It says, if the dragon companion has died within the last hour, you can take a magic action to touch the dragon and expend a use of your second wind. Nice, because of course fighters now have multiple uses of second wind, and the uses scale with level, and they come back on a short rest. So you have uses of second wind to draw upon, and the dragon returns to life after 1 minute with all its hit points restored. So if the dragon goes down in combat, at the end of the combat, you should be able to do this and get your dragon back full hit points. Great. It says, otherwise, you can perform a 1 hour ceremony to resurrect the dragon. This ceremony can be performed as part of a short or long rest. And here is the stat block, the Purple Dragon Companion. And now I'm going to tell you something I don't like. All right, so it's going to start as a small dragon. That will change. And it says armor class 13 plus your intelligence modifier. So what you should be able to tell right away is the Purple Dragon Knight's secondary ability is going to be intelligence. They're going to want intelligence for their dragon's armor class, which is, of course, vitally important, right? And 13 plus the ability modifier, as long as we get a pretty good ability modifier, we can have a pretty decent armor class for this mount, but does it have to be intelligence, right? I'm not opposed to it being a mental stat because, obviously fighters, they want strength, they want dexterity, they want constitution. They don't necessarily care about intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. However, we already have 2 fighter subclasses in the player's handbook. We have the Eldritch Knight and we have the Psy Warrior, and they both have intelligence-based abilities. So now this is our 3rd fighter subclass with the new rules that's also intelligence-based. I would like to see this, personally, be charisma. The Dragon Knight is supposed to be impressive. Charisma seems just natural to me, though I wouldn't be opposed to wisdom. I'd sure like it a lot more than intelligence. But yeah, 13 plus your intelligence modifier. From a mechanic standpoint, I don't have a problem with it. If we didn't already have 2 fighter subclasses that were intelligence-based, I also wouldn't have a problem with it. It's the fact that we're just going back to the same well over and over again. I don't know why. I don't know why we're thinking this should be an intelligence-based subclass rather than a charisma one. Then hit points, 4 plus 4 times your fighter level. Not fantastic. I do kind of wish maybe it was 5, but 4 plus 4 times your fighter level is still a lot more survivable than a warhorse, certainly as you gain levels. If we take this to the extreme and say we're 20th level, well, that's what, 84 hit points? I mean, should be able to take a few hits, right? And then this is notable, the speed. So we have a 30-foot speed, fly 30 feet, it's a dragon, swim 30 feet, and some dragons, of course, have swim. But getting all 3 is really nice as a PC option, because if we happen to be in a campaign that's going to have some underwater stuff, then your dragon having a swim speed is going to be very helpful. So it just allows this subclass to kind of work in all environments. The other thing I thought was really notable is under traits, under Stalwart Bond, it says add half your proficiency bonus, round down, to any ability check or saving throw the dragon makes. So this is going to have scaling saving throws, and if we have a feat like Mounted Combatant, which essentially gives your mount evasion, so if they make their save, they take no damage, and if they fail their save, they take half, which often can be enough to take out a mount. Being able to add anything to that is going to be helpful. Whether half your proficiency bonus is, I almost wish, maybe I'm wishing for too much. I don't want it to be overpowered, but I would like to kind of see this be full proficiency bonus, just saying. And I thought this was interesting as well. So it's got a rend attack, which is intelligence based. Wish that was charisma. But it has gravity breath twice per day, constitution saving throw, 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier, each creature in a 15-foot cone. The target is either pulled up to 15 feet straight towards the dragon or pushed 15 feet straight away from the dragon, your choice. The base dragon has no damage from its breath weapon. It just pulls or pushes, which I think is really interesting. In fact, I particularly like that if I'm using a lance and I have Polearm Master, and I can push something away and then it's going to come in again and potentially take yet another reaction attack through Polearm Master. I think that's an incredibly nice combination, and this gravity breath is going to get better at higher levels. So then we get to level 7, Dragon Rider. So the dragon starts as small, so we can't ride it. But then it says at level 7, and this does remind me of, there's the Ranger from Fizbin's that is a Dragon Ranger. It has kind of similar subclass features to this, but putting this chassis, or putting this kind of subclass on a fighter chassis, I just think is so potent. So, Dragon Mount. The dragon grows to medium size. You can use the dragon as a mount if you are medium or smaller. But when you're riding it, the dragon falls at the end of a turn if it's airborne, and the only thing holding it aloft is its fly speed. So, your medium-sized character can use your medium-sized dragon as a mount. And this is very helpful because if you play D&D and you don't just talk about it online, you know that large size, we often think of it as a buff, but it's not always. Sometimes it's inconvenient. Sometimes it's just plain impossible. And being able to have a medium-sized mount maybe isn't so bad. Though that's not going to remain the same forever. But it's going to be a while before this dragon grows again. So that's handy. And then it can't really fly with you on it, but it can kind of fly. So basically, if you're on your turn, if it's going to fly up and fly down so you can hit somebody that's flying, or fly up onto a ledge or something, it can do that. So better than not being able to fly at all. Then we have improved gravity breath. So the gravity breath becomes a 30-foot cone. That's a decent size. And when a creature fails its saving throw against that gravity breath, it also takes 2d6 force damage. So it's going to do damage. It's going to push or pull. And it's a big cone now. So you can hit a fair number of creatures in a 30-foot cone. Going back up, shared second wind. This I like. When you use your second wind to regain hit points, the dragon also regains hit points equal to a d6 plus your fighter level. and it regains one use of its gravity breath, which is normally twice per day, right? Like I said, the hit points aren't super beefy on this thing. But soon as we start using it as a mount, we also gain the ability to have it restore some of its hit points when we need it to. And, D6 plus your fighter level isn't much less than second wind for you. For you, it's a D10 plus your fighter level. The main part of that is your fighter level. Like, we get this at level 7. That's 7 hit points alone from fighter level before we roll the die. Really handy. And second wind is a bonus action to use. And as I mentioned before, we have multiple uses of it. We can regain it on a short rest. So this is going to make your dragon more beefy. So very nice. And the great thing is, with this coming in at level 7, then, in my head, I immediately think, okay, so I want dueling at level 1, Great Weapon Master at level 4, Polearm Master at level 6, Mounted Combatant at level 8. I get this at level 7, so at level 8, I've got the full Mounted Combatant thing going now. I've got my full Lance on a Dragon concept, and it is firing. And there's just no way to really do this with any kind of mount that we can hope to survive in Tier 2. Eventually, you can do it with Paladins or Rangers. Eventually, but it is just a slower rate of gaining feats makes it very difficult. And we're looking at, level 14 or level 12 at least before we get things where we want them to be. So putting this on the fighter chassis, fantastic. Level 10, Rallying Surge. So when we use our action surge, we get some additional stuff. And we get 2 choices. We get Advance or Retreat. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick 3 allies within 30 feet of us. And our dragon mount is one of those applicable options to give this to. First is Advance. The ally makes 1 attack with a weapon or an unarmed strike. If your purple dragon is one of the allies using Advance, the dragon can make 1 rend attack. And Retreat. The ally moves up to half its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. Both of these are going to help you with maneuverability and mobility on the battlefield. And they help your allies as well. So we're getting a teamwork effect on top of, being able to help our dragon move where it needs to move. Then at level 15, this is when the dream comes true. So superior mount, the purple dragon grows to large size and both its speed and fly speed increase to 40 feet. Additionally, the dragon no longer falls at the end of a turn if airborne while you're riding it. So now we have the actual dragon rider. You are riding a dragon in combat. It's large size. You have a lance. You are flying around. That's what you want. Before, if you wanted this, you kind of had to hope your DM would give you a dragon as a pet. But now you can build it in with your subclass. I think this might be my fighter of choice moving forward. And then tandem attack. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can forego one of your attacks to command the dragon to make 1 rend attack. Alternatively, you can forego 2 of your attacks to command the dragon to use gravity breath. So we could already use our bonus action to have it do those things. But I notice here that it doesn't say that we're talking about the dragon using its action to attack. So I think that means we could have it rend more than once. Or use its gravity breath more than once. So as far as the way I read this, like I said, we'll have to see how it comes out in the published version. And then level 18, yet another feature I thought was really notable. You and your purple dragon have resistance to force and psychic damage. I have highlighted, as you can see, resistance to force, because resistance to force is exceptionally rare. And just had a whole bunch of Monster Manual videos released from other content creators, and one thing they mention is when creatures used to have magical attacks, now they have force attacks. In other words, they're going to attack with force because they know that force pretty much is going to ignore all resistances. And if we look at the other classes and subclasses in the Player's Handbook, none of them got force resistance, but here we have force resistance, so this is very unique, and I'll be curious to see if this comes through in the new book as well. But overall, fantastic. I am thrilled with this subclass. My complaint, my lone complaint really, is the intelligence modifier. I'd love to see that be charisma or potentially wisdom. Intelligence, we've got too many subclasses for fighter already that are intelligence based. So I'm not sure why they would be thinking about intelligence again, but I hope they change their mind on that. I think there's a good chance they will change their mind on that. Like I said, this is Unearthed Arcana. We will have a chance when the survey opens to let them know that we would like to see it be something like charisma or wisdom instead, and there is a very good chance they will do so. Yeah, I wanted to cover this one first because this one is thrilling. I really think this is great, and I'm looking so forward to it because the Purple Dragon Knight subclass, as it is currently in 5th edition from Sword Coast Adventurers Guide, never sees play. No one ever plays it because it's just not good. This will see play. And I gotta say, I'm in campaigns right now that are going to be long-standing campaigns, and I'm going to be a little bit sad that I'm not going to be able to play this in them because I've already got characters. But I'm definitely excited to see the final version of this subclass. I will be covering some of the other subclasses in this Unearthed Arcana in follow-up videos. This is the one I wanted to cover first. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. And I'll talk to you soon.